is Golden State Warrior head coach Steve Kerr, who's nice enough to join us here on 95.7 The Game, brought to you by Xfinity. Stay connected, protected, and entertained. Steve, thank you very much. I know it's quite a work week for you and yours, so we appreciate talking to you today. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing very, very well. Happy to hear good news out of the scrimmage, the light scrimmage today, that, Andre Iguodala, Gary Payton II, Otto Porter Jr., all participated. And I know that there's going to be a practice, which tomorrow will reveal who goes, who doesn't, and so on and so forth. But what if I told you, Steve, that there's a possibility that Game 1 of the NBA Finals might be the healthiest the Golden State Warriors have been all year? Does that sound good to you?
Better late than never, I guess. It's been a strange year in a lot of ways, but I think one of the reasons we've played well in the playoffs is that we got kind of our core group together. Obviously Andre and Gary and Otto have all been injured along the way, but for the most part, we've had most of the group, and we didn't have that luxury the whole regular season. So I think that's it's been a great boost for us just to be able to put different combinations out there and to keep getting better. So hopefully those three guys will all be available. We'll see how it plays out.
Are there tactical adjustments that you have to make if and when all three of those guys are available? Or is that just sort of a case-by-case basis where you're just walking along the street and you find a $100 bill in the curb?
Have you ever done that, right?
Found $100? Yeah, once.
Yeah. Wow. That's a good day.
Yeah, I blew it on alcohol. No, it's just when you get, you know sort of how you're going to use the guys that you've had. I guess what I'm asking is when you get all of a sudden three new guys that are important to you, how challenging is it to try to find a way to fit them in?
Well, you probably can't fit them all in. That's one of the issues. There's not a schematic change that will occur based on the availability. It's mainly just matchups and combinations. So, we'll look at matchups. We'll think about who represents the best option against a certain player, and we'll look at what the combinations would look like in terms of our own lineup, and then make the best possible decision. But there's no right or wrong answer with any of this stuff. You just try to select the best course of action and hope it works out.
Steve, if the Celtics do have the best defense that you're going to run into this postseason, what makes them so?
Well, they are definitely the best defense we will have faced. I think the speed and athleticism and the size at every position is what stands out. You got Marcus Smart, who's the Defensive Player of the Year, as a point guard on the ball, but also able to switch, and he's so strong he can guard low post guys down on the block because of that strength. And then they have a whole bunch of switchable wings, guys who can guard multiple spots, and they're probably the best switching team in the league. They're a little bit like we were, say, 3-4 years ago when we just switched, from Clay to Kevin to Andre to Sean Livingston to Draymond. I mean, it's just a very switchable lineup, which makes them the best in the league.
Well, having said that, are we about to watch the most switchinest defensive NBA Finals of all time? Based on how often you do it.
Yeah, we'll do plenty of that too. Not as much as they will because, we don't have that kind of size and versatility across the board like they do. But we have some and certain lineup combinations. We will do plenty of switching, and we were the number 2 ranked defense in the league for a reason. Also, we were pretty good as well all season long. So pretty fitting that in the finals the two best defenses will square off.
Have you had to spend more time prepping for this series because it's Boston, Or is it, just sort of you do a little bit today, you do a little bit tomorrow because the layoff's been so long? Is Boston harder in terms of time spent to prep for than anybody else you faced?
Not necessarily. In fact, I would say offensively, the first three series that we had were more complex. Boston doesn't really mess around and run a million different plays. You kind of know what's coming. They're very efficient with what they do, very straightforward. Our first few rounds, we were very focused on individual players. Jokic and again with Denver, Doncic with Dallas. I mean, basically the whole offense ran through those guys. Ja Morant, Memphis. Similar. The ball was in one guy's hands so often, but this is a little different. As good as Tatum is, and he's a top 5 player in the league, undoubtedly. It's sort of a different style. They're just more downhill at you. They're gonna move the ball and they're gonna attack you. You got to be able to guard the ball. You got to be able to stay in front of these guys because it's not just Tatum, running everything. They get ball movement and then they get guys like Jaylen Brown and Smart coming downhill, getting to the rim, and they got a lot of guys who can shoot. They're bigs with Horford and Grant Williams. They can shoot threes, so very good three-point shooting team, very athletic team.
Warriors head coach Steve Kerr with us here on Damon and Ratto, 95-7 the game. Is there a comparison point between the Boston Celtics? I know you're probably just watching tape on the Celtics, not looking backwards at the teams that you've gone through here, but that's what we're using as comparison points. Are maybe the Celtics most similar to the Memphis Grizzlies without Ja Morant, which creates, like you said, that balance? There isn't one either attack point or ball-dominant player. Is maybe the Memphis series and how it felt when Ja exited the series more of a preview to what we could see out of the NBA Finals?
I think the similarity to Memphis is the athleticism and the rim protection. That's where Memphis was really tough with Jaren Jackson coming in to block shots. You got Robert Williams in this series coming from the weak side. We played them in March. He came over and wiped like 3 layups off the board in the first half. It just kind of set a tone. And so I think the size and athleticism is similar. But Memphis without Ja, they didn't have Jason Tatum. Tatum, like I said, top 5 player in the league. Now the offense is, like I said, it's not as driven by one guy. The ball moves. Marcus Smart handles the ball quite a bit. Derek White handles it quite a bit. Ball moves well. But Tatum is their guy who, they're going to run the offense through late for sure.
This is less a tactical question than it is just sort of a feel question. Does this lead into the final feel different than the other 5, or is there a season that feels kind of like this just in terms of what you're going through between now and game time?
I think each trip is unique and special based on the players you're coaching. This one feels different because we're at Chase and not Oracle, so first finals here at Chase. But a lot of new guys. I think by the 4th and 5th time, in a row that we went to the finals back then, it felt like for the most part we had the same group of guys over and over again. We'd have maybe 3 or 4 new guys. This is really a much younger, newer team. We've got the 4 or 5 mainstays, the guys who've been there before, but with 17 guys on our roster, I think 12 of them have not been in the finals, so it's a new group for sure.
Steve, at the beginning of this run, you had Steph, Clay, and Draymond, and they were the young guys who needed the veteran help around them. That's why Barbosa and Livingston and David West proved so valuable. Now they are the core guys. Is it easier for you when the primary focus of what your scoring is and what your identity is become those veterans? I mean, it's got to feel an awful lot different. It changes the dynamic of the team, does it not? I mean,
yeah, it does. I mean, I think if you look back all the way at 2015, our first trip, felt to me like it took us a couple of games to really get centered. We had a young group, first time in the finals, a lot of nerves. I didn't feel we played very well the first few games. So I think it is helpful to have our core group here, right away from game one, knowing exactly what's coming, and hopefully that means we'll get off to a better start.
You've said time and time again that this is now the real NBA. You are in the real NBA, the pretend NBA that you enjoyed so much of during the mega dominance of the 5 straight finals was something else. You got pushed to game 7s twice in the conference finals during that 5-year run in 2016 and 18, and had a short rest before you went into game 1 of the NBA finals. The Celtics are obviously coming off their very own tough 7-game series. How did it impact you going into game 1, the rest of the series, and what Boston's going through right now? Does that give you anything that you would consider like a real advantage, having just them gone through 7?
I don't think so. Health is the factor, which I don't think it is, but that's really the main dynamic that could, swing a game or swing a series is if you've got health issues, like we did in 19 when Kevin was out and then Clay went down, or in 15 when Cleveland lost Kyrie and they were already without Love. I mean, health is obviously a huge factor in all this stuff. But assuming Boston's healthy, after that Miami series, there's no real advantage or disadvantage. They will have had like 4 days or so between games, so they'll be rested. It's enough time to put a game plan together. We will have had 6 or 7 days rest. I think both teams are, pretty much on equal footing, and we just tip it up and we go.
Twisting that another way, are 2 days between games to your liking, or is that 1 day too many off?
No, it's to my liking, and I'm guessing Ime would say the same thing for Boston. I mean, the conference finals were a real grind, going every other day, including while you're traveling 3.5 hours, to Dallas and back. I mean, it's those were difficult games, and I think this is much better for the quality of play, where I think the only time there's only 1 day in between is between 3 and 4 in Boston. So I think it's great. I think it's very helpful.
You brought up Ime Udoka first, so I have to ask. I'm sure you're not in the business of giving any advice to your opponent, but you went to the NBA Finals in your first season as a coach, and Ime Udoka is certainly in the same boat this year. How much did it feel different to you? I mean, given all your finals experience, maybe you had that in your back pocket where Udoka didn't necessarily have that as a player. What is the difference for a coach in the NBA Finals beyond the media responsibilities that you're pulled all over the place to do?
Well, there's obviously a bigger spotlight. There's a lot of fanfare. I think that's the biggest thing to adapt to. It's just how different everything feels, and yet the game is the same, and so it's really important for players and coaches just to get into the flow of the game quickly and disregard all of the fanfare surrounding the event, because everything feels different from practicing in front of 500 people to practicing on the main floor instead of your practice facility, to the incredible media obligations that you have. It's the finals are a different beast, but when the game starts, you got to just lock in on the game because the game doesn't change.
The Celtics are the only team in the NBA who's got a winning record over the Warriors since you've taken over as head coach? Obviously, none of that is in the postseason, which is what we're talking about now. Is there any rhyme or reason to that?
Well, they've been really good. I mean, you look at the Celtics. I know there's been a lot of focus on the fact that they haven't been to the finals, but they've been to the conference finals, I want to say 4 times over the last 6 years or so. So since I've been here, they've been very good. They've always been really well coached, first under Brad and now under Ime. They've always been very good defensively. So they've had excellent teams, and we've had great matchups with them. I mean, we've had really interesting games, but I think the main reason is just because they've been really good, and we've been really good.
You talked about your media obligations. Have you ever given any thought to answering the same question different times every time you're asked it, just to see the look on people's faces?
I may have to do that tomorrow. We got media day tomorrow, so I may go with that route.
Are you out of gas, answers wise?
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. I got nothing left.
Okay, well, then maybe just 1 or 2 more questions, and then you can really hang it up in terms of the interview department as far as we're concerned. But I don't want to get you in any trouble here, but I think that how this series gets officiated is going to go a long way to determining the outcome. The freedom of movement given to Kevon Looney might be the difference between an 8-rebound and an 18-rebound game. The freedom of movement given to Steph off the ball is going to go a long way, I think, into affecting the outcome of this series. How physical is Marcus Smart going to be allowed to play Steph when Steph doesn't have the ball? Are these seeds that you start planting? Are these something, is this something that obviously you've given this an awful lot of thought, and we know that the flow of a game determines feels of games massively. If Boston is allowed to be overly physical, that does what?
Well, I mean, I think the what happens in the finals and in the playoffs in general is the level of competition ramps up, the level of detail in game planning, so you kind of know what's coming, and it allows both teams to be more physical. We have been, even though people like to focus on, the ball movement and the shooting, we've been one of the most physical defenses in the league over the years with Draymond and guys like, Andrew Bogut and Andre and many others. So if it's a physical game, it's a physical game. We adapt accordingly. It's my experience that things change from game to game too. One game might be very physical and maybe the league doesn't like it, and maybe the next game is called more closely. So you just have to adapt to whatever's being called.
Is there a team in the 8 years that you've been doing this that Boston is most like? And if there isn't, who comes closest?
A team that Boston is most like?
Yeah.
I think defensively they're similar to Houston a few years ago, when Houston put their all-switching lineup on the floor, and they had P.J. Tucker and Eric Gordon and Chris Paul. They just switched everything, and they had a lot of size and strength at every position. I think that's what the switching will remind us of most, is that Houston matchup.
What'd you think of Jimmy Butler's final shot in Game 7?
Loved it. You know what? You get a chance, especially down 13 with 3 minutes left, and your team's been beaten to a pulp with injuries and physicality, and you make a comeback like that. I love it. Go for it. And I know it didn't go, but I just love the guts. I love the the risk. I don't know, who knows what they would have had left in overtime. They were kind of stretched to their extreme, but I thought it was awesome.
I've always had a theory that if Scott Norwood had hit that Super Bowl field goal, the Buffalo Bills, obviously win that one and probably don't go 0-3 in the 3 consecutive Super Bowls that they then went to. I think that winning breeds success. I think you've got that experiment being run in Curry, Clay, Draymond, and others in real time. And that's when I look at this opportunity, Steve, and I think of how important it is. First of all, it's just been a remarkable year. The fact that you're here in this position is certainly commendable. But if you seriously turn Jordan Poole and Kuminga and Moses Moody into guys who have now won NBA championships this early in their careers, beyond what it would do for the Golden State Warriors, what does it do for them as individuals? And in any way, can James Wiseman really learn from watching a championship run?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt that James, even without playing, is going to learn a lot from this, just from our preparation, just from being a part of the team and seeing what we're doing day in and day out over a 2-month stretch of playoff basketball. That way, once he's in the fight, hopefully next year, it won't catch him off guard. And same with all our young guys. This is just wonderful experience. I think it will be valuable regardless of what happens in this series, but if we're lucky enough and good enough to pull it off, it'd be a hell of a story for all those young guys to be part of something this early in their careers. But we'll see how it all plays out.
As we wrap up, we just want to say, and I don't know if you've ever thought about it like this, but do you realize that you have now, as Steve Kerr, you've participated in the NBA Finals in 4 straight decades? Have you given yourself to even think about that? Besides your, predictable, boy, I'm old comment, what really comes to mind when you think about that and how incredible of a basketball life you have lived and continue to live?
Well, I had not thought about the decades. That's a little scary. But this is my 11th time, which is kind of insane, And so all I think about is how lucky I've been to be part of teams that had Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Tim Duncan, David Robinson, Steph Curry, Draymond Green. I mean, I've lived this incredibly charmed basketball life. There's no way around it, and I don't take it for granted. So a lot of guys who were way better players than me never made the finals a single time, and lots of great coaches who never had the privilege of coaching in the finals. So I know exactly how lucky I am.
No, I think we are. You've done an awful lot to unlock how lucky others around you have been too, and you are a huge part of this solar system of success that you claim to be just some orbiting moon in. You're more than that. There is no doubt. On a personal note, your comments before the game in Dallas were so profound, and I think an awful lot of people in this nation thank you for them. I know Ray and I certainly do. You're a hell of a guy, Steve Kerr. There's just no doubt about it. And we wish you continued success, and go get another NBA championship. We'd love to see you at a parade.
I appreciate the kind words, Damon, and always great going on with you guys, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you so much.